Hey friends, here we are, one more video. What we're going to look at in this video is the derivatives of other trig functions. So in the last video, we looked at the derivative of sine and cosine. So here what we're going to do is we're going to look at our other four trig functions: tangent, secant, cosecant, and cotangent. Okay, now depending on, you've got a formula sheet here, but sometimes depending on your teacher or your professor in university, you won't get a formula sheet. So not a problem here, but you can see here's our six derivatives that you're going to have to know. Okay, so no need to memorize them with me, but just keep in mind sometime in the future you might have to. Okay, so I'm not going to derive these with you. It takes a while to derive them, but just here's your laws. So the derivative of tan x, secant squared. The derivative of cosecant is negative cosecant cotan. The derivative of secant is secant tan. And the derivative of cotan is negative cosecant squared. Okay, I notice in a couple of them, there's negatives. So how I always remember this when I was in high school or doing my math degree, say, was this. If my derivative started with a c, or what I was trying to take the derivative started with a c, guess what? The derivative would be negative. And if my derivative didn't start with a c, then it would be positive. Okay, maybe that helps you memorize these things, but one way or the other, use that formula sheet. You've got it, right? Okay, let's go and do a couple of these things, and you'll see just how easy it is. I've got a big note here for any trig function that tan x squared is not the same as tan squared x. Okay, that's a big deal. I see students write that wrong all the time. Okay, when you can write that squared is when it's like that. That's squaring the function. That's tangent x times tangent x. All right, watch out for that when you're doing these things. So let's determine some derivatives. Let's just do four of these. So y is equal to 1/2 tan 4x. So I go to my formula sheet. What does it say? Tangent is secant squared x. So y prime is 1/2 secant squared 4x. And again, what you've got to watch for with trig functions where mistakes happen is that this is chain rule. So now I'm going to multiply by 4. So 1/2 times 4 is 2. So 2 secant squared 4x. There it is. Done. Okay, the next one, y is equal to secant squared root x. So I come up here and I say, okay, the derivative of secant squared. Well, I don't have a derivative of secant squared, but I know the rule for secant. So let's go see what we'll do. I think the easiest thing to do first is to rewrite this as this. So now the derivative of that is 2 secant x to the 1/2, so power law. And then the derivative of secant is secant x tan x. So this would be secant x to the 1/2 tan x to the 1/2. And I'm sorry, I'm out of room here, but now I got to take the derivative chain rule of the 1/2. And the derivative of that is x 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. So now after all of that, we're just going to simplify this. Let's clean this up. Well, 2 times 1/2 is 1. That's good, right? That's a plan. And then now what have I got? Well, I've got that x to the negative 1/2, so I'm going to rewrite that down here. I've got secant x to the 1/2 times secant x to the 1/2. That's secant squared, like that. And tan is like that. Okay, there. That's a nasty looking derivative. Boom. Okay. It's all that chain rule, isn't it? That chain rule makes these things ugly. All right, let's try number 3. Okay, number 3, cos composed with tan x squared. Okay, so first thing I'd see is I see some students try to use the product rule on that. Don't do that. This is just chain rule. So derivative of the outside function. So negative sine tan x squared times the derivative of the inside. I'm just going to go down the page here because I'm running out of room already. Tan x squared. Well, the derivative of tangent is secant squared. X squared, and the derivative of x squared is 2x. So now all we're going to do is bring that 2x to be our lead coefficient, so negative 2x. Then this is tangent x squared, secant squared x squared. Oh, okay. I'm sure there's some identities that we could use in here somewhere, right? Start turning tangent into sine over cosine and stuff like that, but don't feel the need to. You're done. Okay, last one. Negative cotangent x minus 1 squared. Oh, that looks ugly. So I go to my formula sheet. Cotangent is negative cosecant squared. Okay, so I come back down here. So this will be y prime negative, the derivative of cotangent is negative cosecant squared, x minus 1 squared, right? Now I'm going to take the derivative of the inside function, and the derivative of that is 2 times x minus 1. And now let's just simplify this. What do I get? Well, a negative and a negative make it a positive. So 2x minus 1 cosecant squared x minus 1. There it is. Okay, so again, it's a lot of chain rule when you're doing trig, but that's the name of the game in this unit, or at least in this section. Okay, friends, I hope that was helpful. See you another time.